Imagine standing in the middle of a city nearly 2,000 years ago. The ground vibrates beneath your feet. Merchants shout from crowded market stalls. Horses pull carts through narrow streets. The smell of fresh bread mixes with smoke from thousands of cooking fires. Above you rise enormous temples, marble monuments, and apartment buildings taller than anything most people had ever seen. More than 1 million people live here. No electricity, no engines, no modern technology. Yet somehow, this city became the center of the known world. This is ancient Rome, the original megacity. And today, using AI reconstruction, we're going to travel back in time and experience Rome at the height of its power when emperors ruled continents, gladiators fought for glory, and engineering achievements changed human history forever. Welcome to ancient Rome as you've never seen it before. When most people think of Rome, they picture the Colosseum, maybe a few ruins, a handful of statues. But the real city was something far more extraordinary. At its peak in the 2nd century AD, Rome was likely the largest city on Earth west of China. Estimates suggest its population exceeded 1 million people. To put that into perspective, very few cities anywhere in the world would reach that size again for more than 1,000 years. Using historical records, archaeological discoveries, ancient writings, and modern AI reconstruction tools, we've recreated what this incredible city may have looked like when it stood at the center of an empire stretching across 3 continents. Today, we'll walk through its streets. We'll visit its political heart, its entertainment districts, its temples, its neighborhoods, and we'll discover how ordinary Romans lived in what was arguably history's first true megacity. So let's begin our journey. Picture yourself approaching Rome. The year is AD 117. The Roman Empire is at its greatest extent, and the city before you is unlike anything you've ever seen. The city of a million people. This is Rome itself, a sprawling urban giant covering hills, valleys, forums, markets, temples, and thousands upon thousands of homes. From a distance, the city appears almost endless. Roofs stretch toward the horizon. Columns glitter in sunlight. Smoke rises from countless hearths. The sound is constant. People talking, animals moving, blacksmiths hammering, vendors selling goods, children running through crowded streets. Ancient writers described Rome as a city that never truly slept, and they weren't exaggerating. Every day, ships arrived carrying food from Egypt, North Africa, and beyond. Without this massive supply network, the city simply could not survive. Some estimates suggest Rome consumed hundreds of thousands of tons of grain every year. Imagine feeding 1 million people without trucks, trains, or refrigeration. How did they achieve this? Through organization, through infrastructure, through an empire built to serve its capital. And nowhere was that power more visible than in the city's political center. This is the Roman Forum, the beating heart of Roman civilization. If Rome was the center of the world, then the Forum was the center of Rome. Here, senators debated laws, generals celebrated victories, citizens gathered to hear speeches that could change history. Towering temples surrounded the square. Massive government buildings lined the streets. Marble monuments commemorated military triumphs from Britain to the Middle East. Picture yourself standing here. Thousands of people move around you. Political arguments erupt in public. Business deals are negotiated. Religious ceremonies take place. News spreads rapidly through crowds. This was essentially Rome's government center. Stock market, courthouse, and social media platform all rolled into one. One fascinating detail: Romans were obsessed with public reputation. A single speech delivered in the Forum could elevate a politician or destroy him. Many careers rose and fell on these very stones. But while politics shaped Rome's future, entertainment captured its imagination, and no building symbolized that better than the Colosseum. This is the Colosseum, the most famous arena in history. Even today, nearly 2,000 years later, it remains one of the world's greatest architectural achievements. When completed around AD 80, it could hold approximately 50,000 spectators. Some estimates suggest even more. Think about that. An entire stadium built without modern machinery, without steel frameworks, without power tools. Yet spectators could enter and exit remarkably quickly through a sophisticated system of corridors and stairways. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. Crowds roared, trumpets echoed, gladiators prepared for combat. Exotic animals from across the empire appeared before astonished audiences. Lions, leopards, bears, even giraffes. For many Romans, these spectacles were the highlight of the year. But the Colosseum wasn't just about violence. It was also propaganda, a way for emperors to demonstrate wealth, power, and generosity. The message was simple: Rome rules the world, and Rome can entertain the world. Yet beyond the spectacle, another marvel kept the city alive every single day: its water. This is one of Rome's greatest achievements: the aqueduct system. Ancient Rome had access to enormous quantities of fresh water. Water flowed into the city from distant mountains through carefully engineered channels stretching for dozens of miles. What's remarkable is that most of this system relied on gravity alone. No pumps, no electricity, just brilliant engineering. The water supplied public fountains, baths, homes, and businesses. Visitors arriving in Rome were often amazed by the sheer abundance of water, and nowhere was that abundance more impressive than the public baths. This is a Roman bath complex, and it's far bigger than most people imagine. These weren't simply places to wash. They were social centers, gyms, libraries, meeting places, entertainment venues. Some bath complexes covered enormous areas and could accommodate thousands of visitors daily. Picture yourself entering. Marble floors beneath your feet, steam filling the air, conversations echoing across grand halls, citizens discussing politics, businessmen negotiating deals, friends meeting after work. The baths represented one of Rome's greatest social equalizers. Rich and poor often shared the same facilities, and perhaps most surprisingly, many Romans visited almost every day. But while the wealthy enjoyed public luxuries, ordinary life looked very different. Let's step into the neighborhoods where most Romans actually lived. This is where the majority of Romans lived. Not in palaces, not in villas, but in apartment buildings known as insulae. Some rose 5 or 6 stories high. That made them among the tallest residential buildings in the ancient world. The wealthy occupied spacious lower floors. The poor often lived near the top. Why? Because climbing stairs was exhausting, and because upper floors were generally smaller and more dangerous. Fires were a constant threat. Building collapses sometimes occurred. Water access was limited. Life could be crowded, noisy, and uncomfortable. Yet these neighborhoods were full of energy. Street vendors sold food. Children played in alleyways. Neighbors exchanged gossip. Craftsmen worked from tiny shops. This was the real Rome. Messy, loud, alive, far removed from the polished marble monuments tourists admire today. And speaking of food, how did a city this large feed itself? Walk into one of Rome's markets and you're immediately overwhelmed. Fish from coastal waters, olive oil from Spain, wine from Gaul, grain from Egypt, spices from distant lands. The Roman Empire functioned like a giant economic machine. Goods traveled thousands of miles to reach the capital. Merchants from different cultures mixed together daily. Languages blended. Ideas spread. Products exchanged hands at incredible speed. For ordinary Romans, markets weren't just places to shop. They were places to socialize, to hear news, to argue politics, to experience the diversity of an empire that stretched across much of the known world. But beyond commerce and daily life stood structures that connected Romans to something even greater: their gods.